Right now, you can hear something. Maybe it is the hum of your phone. Maybe it is traffic outside. Maybe it is just the faint ringing that lives in the back of your skull. You have never once in your life experienced true silence. Not even close. And if you ever did, something inside you would start to break within hours. This is not a metaphor. This is not an exaggeration. This is what happened when scientists tried to find out what silence actually does to a human mind. The year was 1951. A psychologist named John Lilly was working at the National Institute of Mental Health, and he had a question that no one had seriously asked before. What happens to a brain when you take away all input? No sound, no light, no touch, no sensation of any kind. What is left of a person when the world completely disappears? He built a tank, a sealed, light-proof, soundproof chamber filled with salt water kept at exactly skin temperature, so you could not feel where your body ended and the water began. He called it sensory deprivation. His colleagues called it disturbing. The volunteers who climbed inside called it something they could not describe when they climbed back out. Most of them lasted less than 3 hours. Within the first 60 minutes, the brain starts searching. It is doing what it always does, scanning for input, looking for signals, trying to build a picture of the world. But there is nothing to find. The eyes dilate and find only black. The ears strain and find only the blood moving through your own skull. The skin reaches out and touches water that feels exactly like nothing. And so, the brain does the only thing it can do. It starts making things up. Researcher Jay Shirley documented case after case of healthy, stable adults beginning to hallucinate within the first 2 hours of sensory deprivation. Not vague impressions, vivid, detailed, fully formed experiences. Voices, faces, colors that had no names. One subject heard an entire orchestra playing a piece of music he had never heard before. Another felt a hand on his shoulder and spun around in the water, certain someone else was in the tank with him. These were not dreams. These were people who were awake, aware, and watching their own minds construct a reality from nothing. Your brain, you see, is not designed to receive the world. It is designed to predict it. This is the part that changes how you understand everything. Neuroscientist Carl Friston at University College London has spent decades building a framework called predictive processing. And what it tells us is this. Your brain is not a passive receiver, sitting back and waiting for signals to arrive. It is a prediction machine, constantly generating a model of what it expects to happen next, and then checking that model against incoming sensory data. The sensory data does not create your reality. It corrects it. The prediction comes first. So what happens when there is no sensory data to correct against? The predictions keep running. The model keeps updating. But without anything to check itself against, it begins to drift and drift and drift until the predictions themselves become the experience. This is why the hallucinations feel real, because in the truest neurological sense, they are real. Your brain built them using the same machinery it uses to build every experience you have ever had. This is where the experiment gets darker. By day 3, the human subjects at McGill University in Montreal, in studies run by psychologist Donald Hebb through the late 1950s, were not just hallucinating. They were losing their ability to think in straight lines. Hebb had not used water tanks. His subjects sat in padded rooms, wearing translucent goggles that let in only diffused light, their hands wrapped in cardboard tubes so they could not feel texture. They were paid $20 a day, which was serious money. Most of them quit before the end of day 2. Those who stayed longer could not solve simple arithmetic. They could not hold a train of thought. One subject, a doctoral student in mathematics, tried to recite the multiplication tables to stay grounded and found he could not get past 7 times 3. 8 days. That was the record. No one has ever survived a full 8 days of total sensory deprivation and came out unchanged. The researchers who pushed subjects to that limit did not publish all of what they found. Some of the declassified reports suggest that the line between hallucination and delusion had begun to dissolve. Subjects were not just seeing things, they were starting to believe things. Things about who they were, things about where they were, things that had no anchor in the world they had left behind. And this is the part that will stay with you. The researchers did not actually create this condition. They recreated it because evolution had already discovered the same torture thousands of years before. Solitary confinement in the ancient world was not called punishment. It was called exile. And across every culture, on every continent, the most severe thing a community could do to one of its members was not to kill them. It was to silence them, to remove them from the web of sound and sight and touch and presence that makes a person a person. The Romans did it. The Egyptians did it. Nomadic tribes on the Eurasian steppe did it. The specifics were different. The result was the same. A human being, cut off from other human beings long enough, stops functioning as a human being. Stuart Grassian, a psychiatrist at Harvard Medical School, spent years interviewing prisoners in solitary confinement. And what he documented was nearly identical to what Hebb and Lilly had found in the lab. Hypersensitivity to sound and light, perceptual distortions, paranoid thinking, hallucinations. The onset, in most cases, began within days, some within hours. And critically, in many cases, the damage did not fully reverse when the silence ended. The brain had reorganized itself around absence, and reorganizing it back was not a simple switch to flip. This is the part where you have to sit with something uncomfortable, because you have never been in a sensory deprivation tank. You have never been in solitary confinement, but you have felt a version of this, and you know exactly when. The 3 a.m. feeling. The one where you wake up in the dark and the silence is too loud and your thoughts start to unspool in directions you cannot control. The moment when the absence of input lets the predictions run unchecked. When the thing you have been not thinking about all day finally surfaces because there is nothing left to push it back down. Your brain is not quiet when the world goes quiet. It gets louder. John Lilly went on to spend the rest of his life thinking about what he had found in that tank. He became convinced that the hallucinations were not malfunctions, that they were the brain revealing its tree architecture when the scaffolding of the external world was removed. He believed that what people saw in the silence was not random noise, but signal, a signal from somewhere deeper than thought. Most neuroscientists would disagree with that conclusion, but they would not disagree with the finding underneath it. When you remove the world from a human mind, the mind does not go silent. It speaks, and what it says is a perfect, unfiltered, completely unmoderated version of itself. That is either the most terrifying thing you have ever heard or the most fascinating. And the fact that you are not sure which one it is tells you something important about the relationship between your mind and the noise that surrounds it every single day. Right now, you can hear something. A hum, a hiss, a low ring living just behind your thoughts. You have never once experienced true silence. And now you understand exactly why some part of you is grateful for that. Because the mind that lives in the quiet is not a rested mind. It is an unmoored one. And the sounds that fill your world are not distractions from yourself. They are the walls that hold yourself together.